Welcome to D. Holloway's Midlife Takeover, where it's never too late to pursue life on your own terms and time because you absolutely deserve it. All right, so let's get into this video. In my first few videos that I posted, I talked about leaving my job and going on this journey of working for myself. I was working in the aerospace and defense industry, and I decided to leave that job and go and flip houses. Now, I left my job in March of 2023, so at the end of this month, it will be 1 year of not working for the man. And what I want to talk to you about in this video is some of the things that I've learned relative to the ups and downs of leaving your job and going to work for yourself. And I want to share those with you. I know a lot of people have dreams of walking away from their job, like the job is hell and going to work for themselves is going to be heaven. Now, I would caution you with that type of thinking because it's just not true. And I don't even know what's up with the world where everybody thinks that having a job is a bad thing, but that's crazy thinking to me. If that's how you take care of your family and yourself, there's nothing wrong with a job. But sometimes people just have to go on their own journey because they see a higher purpose. Some people actually love their job. And if that's you, then keep your job and then just start a side hustle. Back to my point. So I want to get into what I consider to be the ups and downs or the positives or negatives of my decision to leave my job. So let's start off with some of the ups or the positives that I've experienced. Time freedom. For most people who are thinking about leaving their job, the number one thing that they think about is having the freedom and time to do the things that they want to do. And for the past 11 months, that has been absolutely true for me. I have enjoyed having that time freedom. I'm not a morning person, so my wife takes our son to school. I get to sleep in. I get to work the hours that are most productive for me. A lot of times I'll find myself working after everybody goes to bed until like 1 or 2 in the morning. I get to go to all of my son's basketball games, football games, and now that he's running track, I get to go to his track meets, and they're all in the early evening. So I don't have that stress of trying to get to his events, and then I got staff calling me about issues and problems. I can simply just go watch his events, come home, and then work as needed. Another positive that I've learned is the thrill of the kill. So I'm a country boy, and back in my college days, I used to go rabbit hunting with a homeboy of mine. And that feeling of like hearing the dogs barking and knowing that this rabbit is about to come out of the thickets and take a run for the field, or either he's going to double back and he's going to try to slip past you. And just the excitement of getting ready to unleash that 12 gauge pump on his ass was like a great feeling. And that's kind of how I feel when I'm landing a deal with a homeowner, when I'm remodeling the house, and when I sell it and make a profit. It feels like a big grizzly bear who just took down a moose and he's just sitting there feasting. It's like a great feeling. It feels like you are unplugged from the system and that the system can't take your livelihood away by some decision to either downsize or either just go out of business. The next positive that I've experienced is customer satisfaction that comes out of it. I'm very transparent with sellers. I let them know that as part of buying your home, I have to be able to buy it at a price that allows me to make a reasonable profit because I want people to understand that this has to work for both sides. On some occasions, I've actually walked people through the numbers of how I arrived at my offer just so they have that comfort of knowing that I didn't pull that number out my ass. One thing I've learned is that people will trade equity in their home for the solution to their problem, relief of stress, relief of a headache. It's my job to bring a solution and some compassion to the situation, just like a normal, decent human being. It lets me know that I'm bringing something of value to the marketplace, and as a result, I can get paid for that, and I can live off of that. No ceilings and no floor. When you work for yourself, you don't have a ceiling on the salary that you can make. It all boils down to how hard you want to work. You could work yourself to the bone day and night, generating as much money as you can. Nobody's going to sit there and say, hey, this is your salary and this is all you get, regardless of how great or how well you do. Now, that's not why I left my job. I didn't leave because I wanted to go and grind myself to the bone to earn more money, to buy more stuff, because I'm not driven by materialistic things. So that wasn't the case for me. But I do like the idea that if I do choose to grind myself to the bone to make more money, hey, I can do that. But my goal is to make the necessary money that makes me feel good in the least amount of effort. Now, on the flip side of that is there's no floor. Now, I made a pretty decent salary at my old job, and I had recently gotten a promotion that bumped my potential salary up by another $55,000 a year. And I decided to walk away from that for the opportunity to chase my time freedom. You have to be willing to accept that because there's no floor. You could actually make much less than you did at your day job. I mean, you could bomb at this. One of the things that I did to protect myself was I had stacked up about 12 months of salary so that I didn't have to worry about my day-to-day living expenses should things go bad. But I've been able to maintain my lifestyle with the money that I've generated from being self-employed. As in life, not all things are peaches and cream. Before we get into the downs or the negatives of the things that I've experienced, let's check out this quick public service announcement. If you've been thinking about breaking out of the matrix and living life on your own terms and your own time, consider subscribing to my channel where we're going to share a ton of life lessons, money lessons, as well as the journey. Also, if you take something of value from this video, please like and share with your friends and your family. Now back to the video. One of the most annoying things about leaving your W-2 job and becoming self-employed is doing jobs that you don't like. On my W-2 job, I had a subcontracts person, a finance person, a program manager, a quality control person. When you're self-employed, you're all of those things. So I do my own accounting via QuickBooks. I pay the bills. I schedule the contractors. I create the scope of work. Essentially, you're coordinating all these different tasks. Generally, when you first start out, you're trying to keep your overhead costs low. So you don't have the funds necessarily to go out and hire all these people to support you. Not only that, you don't have the business to warrant having that many people on your team. As a result, you have to do some tasks that you don't want to do for a short while. Now, there are some tasks that I do outsource to virtual assistants, like some list building work or data mining and so forth. Next up is managing your cash flow. Because I made a decent salary on my W-2 job, I was never really pressed about money because I never had to use my personal money to fund any of the business that I was doing in the real estate investing. The profits that I made from the real estate investing, I simply used to continue doing business with. That all changes when you no longer have that W-2 income that takes care of all of your living expenses. Now the business income and the living expenses are kind of interdependent. And you have to watch what's coming in and what's going out much, much more closely. This became very apparent to me when I was flipping 4 projects at once. And this was the most I had done at any given time. So you have interest payments that are due every month. And let's say you have 4 interest payments of $1,500. So that's $6,000 that you have going out every month just in interest payments. And you don't necessarily have cash coming in. You also are going to have your living expenses that you have to maintain, and as well as the money that you require to rehab the houses. You're also looking at what houses you have on the market, that are scheduled to close. And you're just watching all of this money going in and out much more closely because the living is now tied to the profits that you're making out of the business. Whereas before, you had this check coming in every 2 weeks that covered all of your expenses and more. So your living expenses were never an issue or a concern at all. And you could dedicate all of the money to your business that the business generated. This is why it was so important to me to have those 12 months of living expenses stashed to the side. It gave me more flexibility with the business. The last thing you want to do is run out of money in the middle of a project or run out of money to live on before one of your deals closes. From purchase of a property to closing and making a profit is generally about 90 to 120 days. I always try to hit that 90 days because I need to turn that money as fast as possible. So during that time, it's very important that you keep a close eye on your cash flow. During this first year of full-time real estate investing, I get this back and forth anxiety that is annoying. I call it project anxiety. When I have 1 or 2 flip projects in progress, I generally have this anxious feeling that I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more and I need to get another project going. And when I get that 3rd project under my belt, I feel relaxed again. I feel like I'm on the right track. But as soon as I take on anything else like a fourth project, that anxiety comes back. And it's a slightly different anxiety. It's the anxiety that I bit off more than I can chew and I'm getting stretched a little thin. It's not a crippling anxiety, but it's an annoying anxiety. When I have four projects going and then that first or second project closes and I get profits back in my pocket again, that anxiety goes away. Next thing you know, when I'm down to two projects, that anxiety comes back that I need to get another project under my belt. I'm interested to see how these feelings go, but for right now, it just is what it is. The next downside of being self-employed is when you let complacency and lack of accountability slide in. Just because you don't like getting up in the mornings doesn't mean that sometimes you need to get up in the morning and get to work and start handling some things that you need to handle. Don't sit around and let things stack up on top of each other. You set the deadline and you need to be accountable to that deadline, even though the only person that's being affected by it is you. It's easy to get complacent sometimes when you've had a few wins, you got a little money in your pocket, you're not stressed about money, and things are going well. You have to continue grinding because things are not going to get done unless you do them. Nobody's going to get on you because you missed the deadline. It's only going to affect you. Now, the funny thing is that on my W-2 job, I was never complacent. I was always accountable. I was always a self-starter. I was always self-motivated. I always wanted to do the best job that I could do. Part of that was probably ego and I wanted to show people how talented I was, or I was angling for a promotion or more money. I guess when you're self-employed, I already know that I'm smart and talented, so I don't have to prove that to myself. But seriously, it's definitely something that I'm working on. There are tons of other pros and cons of leaving a job and becoming self-employed. The situation is going to be different for every person. All I know is that if I didn't leave my job and try to pursue my life on my own terms and my own time, I would regret it and I would hate myself. Some of you might feel the same way. I do know that this year is going to prove a lot to me, and I look forward to sharing the journey with you all, the good and the bad. And hopefully I'm either able to inspire you or give you some things to think about if you're on the fence. In the meantime, take care and be safe in these social media streets.